You've talked until you're blue in the face about strategy, so why isn't it happening? After all, you've given emails, updates, you've answered questions, and you've reinforced the why. And people agree with it. They're like, all right, sounds great. And then Monday shows up, and the work looks exactly the same. It's because communication is being asked to do a job that it can't do on its own. When strategy depends on explanation instead of reinforcement, execution doesn't stick. So in this video, we will look at why explaining the strategy over and over doesn't lead to execution, and what actually needs to change for strategy to move into real work. Now, the common leadership trap is that we explain the strategy again, we add more context, we reinforce the why, we communicate more frequently. And none of that is wrong. And in fact, it feels responsible. But communication alone doesn't change behavior. And that's because understanding is not the same as execution. People can support the strategy, and they still default back to familiar habits once the day gets busy. When the way the work actually happens stays the same, behavior usually stays the same too, no matter how clear the explanation was. In many organizations, strategy mostly lives in meetings, presentations, or updates from leadership. Progress depends on reminders. Leaders keep that strategy alive through words. And as soon as attention shifts to the next urgent thing, execution falls by the wayside. When strategy lives mainly in conversation, it never becomes self-sustaining. Now, this pattern feels familiar to you. I built a short diagnostic that helps leaders see where execution actually is breaking down. Just check below for the link. So what does execution actually require? Strategy has to be reinforced by the environment people work in. That means workflows that support the strategy, clear ownership and decision rights, expectations that make the right behavior the easy behavior, and rhythms that keep strategy present without constant reminders. When these things are in place, leaders don't have to push nearly as hard. Why does this reinforcement matter more than just persuasion? People usually follow the path of least resistance. The environment creates that path. It's like when people walk through the grass, after a while, you just see this pathway starting to develop. The environment does the same thing. When the environment supports the strategy, the execution starts to feel natural. And when it doesn't, leaders end up carrying the brunt of that strategy themselves, constantly communicating, and that gets exhausting fast. Communication is important. It helps the people understand the strategy. Reinforcement helps them live it out. If execution depends on how often you explain the strategy, it's not built to last. And that's not a leadership failure, it's a design issue. Now, we all know that even with clarity and reinforcement in place, execution can still stall. And that usually happens when teams aren't pulling in the same direction. So in the next video, we'll look at why teams can support the strategy and still execute it differently.